Hey, what's up, guys? So this is my part two of the Karazhan review. So right off the bat, Babbling Book. So 1 mana 1/1 Battle Cry, add a random mage spell to your hand. So the 1 mana 1/1 doesn't seem that great, but if you look at standard tempo mages right now, they only have two 1-drops. All you play on curve is a mana worm on turn 1. So this could kind of fill the gap there. So I feel like this card might actually be played a little bit. Is it going to be game breaking and, just be run in every mage deck ever? No. But will it be run in some tempo mage lists? Probably. Yeah, I think it's a good enough card. Another thing to consider is the random mage spells might not be that great. You could get something like Shatter off of it, and that could be almost useless all game. Sorry. But then you could get something like a Flame Strike going into turn 7, which you exactly need to beat the Zoolock or something like that. So I think it could be pretty good, and I think it will be played in some lists. Next is Malchus Imp. So this card's pretty interesting. I've seen a couple discard Zoolocks on ladder. Have they been that great? No, not really. Have I lost them before though? Yes, I have. So this is a card that I think will enable that type of a deck to almost be good. And this really depends what kind of support they get from the rest of the expansion. Do I think it'll be good enough just based on Malchus Imp right now? Probably not. Again, it's hard to say how the meta develops, and everything like that. But I think this card's okay, and it does enable a whole deck, which I think is pretty good. So I think that we will see a little bit more discard Zoolock now based on this card. Cara Xem. This card's pretty interesting. So it doesn't seem too good, but it's a 5 mana 6/6 for stats. So it's alright. A lot of people right away would think that this would be a card that Zoolock would play. And in the current Zoolock, the super aggressive one, I don't think it will be. I don't think we're going to see it there. We could if Zoolock becomes more mid-rangey. Then I would say that this card will definitely be played there. But what I'm thinking right now is this is a card that's really good for Reno Lock. Simply because Reno Lock doesn't have any 5-drops right now. All they have is Corrupted Healbot if you're playing a N'Zoth list. And if you're playing a Cthulhu list, all you have is Crazed Worshipper. But if you play Reno Lock, you'd like to have 5-drops, right? More than one in your deck. So, why not play Karazhan, right? It's a 5 mana 6/6 of stats. The only unfortunate part about that is you can't Shadow Flame it because it's not a high attack minion, and it dies to Hellfire. But I still think it's an alright card, and we will see this played, I'm sure. Next up is Protect the King. This one is kind of weird. It's really tough to say if this card will be good or not. This is enabling Bolster for sure. If you're playing against the Zoolock, you have the 5 mana combo, Protect the King into Bolster, which is pretty insane, right? Your opponent has a full board. That gives you a board of 7 3/3s with taunt, so 21 damage on board. Pretty good. Will that happen? Probably, but not too likely. But do I think this card is good right off the bat? Probably, It's really hard to say again. I think it's alright. It's weaker than most of the other ones, in my opinion, that we've seen. And I don't think it'll be game breaking again, but I think it's an interesting card that again will enable Taunt Warrior. To a certain extent, it'll make you okay with having Bolster in your deck. So I think this one's interesting, kind of like a Dark Horse. Maybe we'll see it be really good. Kind of funny, there's a Dark Horse right in the picture. And yeah, Ivory Knight's there as well, that's cool. Okay, so Pompous Thespian. So 2 mana 3/2 taunt. So nothing spectacular. Will this card see constructed play? Probably not. I don't think you want a 2 mana 3/2 with taunt. Maybe Bolster Warrior, but then they do have Sparring Partner already, so I mean, doesn't really make any sense unless you want 4 2-drops of taunt. But I think this card will be seen in Arena. Will it be phenomenal in game breaking? No. It's just a 3/2 with taunt. It's alright. I mean, something nice to top deck late game in Arena to force your opponent to swing their big minions into it. But I don't think it's going to be game breaking for Constructed at all. It probably won't be played, I don't think. But this does matter for Arena, I think. Next is Morose. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that name wrong. Or right, sorry. But this card's interesting, and a lot of people ask me about it while I've been streaming. So 3 mana 1/1 stealth at the end of your turn, summon a 1/1 steward. The deck that I can see using this card with great success is Token Druid. It can be like a Shade of Naxxramas, sort of. So turn 1, you innervate it out. Then you have a 1/1 with stealth, and then constant 1/1s unless your opponent's like a rogue with Fan of Knives, Druid with Swipe Face, stuff like that. And while there are a lot of pings in the game that can remove it, I think it could be good enough. If you can innervate out Morose on turn 1 and then follow up with Power of the Wild, how is your opponent going to remove it cleanly very fast, right? Constant 1/1s could be good, and we will definitely see some strategies revolved around this card, and I think it should be quite interesting. But again, it's one of the ones that you do have to see in play before you judge it. Just looking at it, the card doesn't seem that great. You know, you can list 500 different things to remove it easily on, like, by turn 3, right? Turn 3, like, Mage just goes Arcane Missiles, and it's insanely likely that it is removed. But I think that this is one of the ones we just have to wait until the expansion rolls out, and we got to see people who are creative, what kind of decks they come up with it. So I think that this one could be pretty good as well. It just depends. It needs the right player to be super creative and come up with a decent deck list for it. But I think we will see it in Constructed. Next up, Prince Malchus. So I think this card's quite interesting, and I think it's pretty cool. 5 mana, 5/6, and it's a demon. So again, it does fill that the 5-drop slot for Reno Lock. Does fill up that slot, helps you play another 5 mana card if you don't want to play Cara Xem. And I think this is pretty awesome. It's really good for new players and old players alike. 5 extra legendary cards in your deck is awesome, and these do abide by the deck building rules. So if you're playing Mage, you won't get like a rogue legendary, just Mage legendaries and neutrals, and you can't get 2 copies of a legendary in your deck. So again, this does work for Reno. It won't make Reno not activated. But one bad thing about this card is you could get cards like you could get Nat Pagal and Lorewalker Cho, so you could have dead draws when you would need to draw something like Hellfire if you're playing Reno Lock. So that could be an unfortunate part of it. It could also be good for a deck like Fatigue Warrior, so you fatigue slower, or in Control Mirrors, so then your opponent does start fatiguing first, is an interesting part about it. But again, it could overall lower the quality of cards in your deck, because you really don't want to get cards like Lorewalker Cho, Nat Pagal, Dark Nat Pagal, stuff like that. So I think that this one again will be interesting, and it's a pretty heavy RNG reliant card. You could get like Ysera, Nefarian if you're playing a deck that has no late game and needs late game. You could just pray, put this card in your deck, and then just play with an earlier curve, and hope to draw those cards later on to contest other mid-range and control decks. And a 5/6 is pretty nice for 5 mana. It's a Pit Lord with an added effect, so I think it's good. I'll be playing with this card. I think it's pretty interesting, right? You just pray that random legendary is going to help you out a lot. So I do think this one's interesting, and we'll see play for sure, and will be a fun card for newer players especially. If you don't have the ability to, buy a lot of cards and craft a lot of cards, play all the legendaries you want, you can play Prince Malchus and then play all the legendaries you want with enough games, right? And it's kind of interesting seeing when you top deck a random one, it's like, oh, that's exactly what I wanted, right? So I think this is a fun card, and it might be competitive. I think that with the stat line, it is viable, and we probably will see it in competitive play, but it's tough to say. And lastly, Bookworm. So this card doesn't look too good right off the bat. It's a 6 mana, 3/6, and battle cry if you're holding a dragon, destroy an enemy minion with 3 or less attack. And it's a dragon, so that's pretty good. But what I think this card will be good for is decks like Dragon Priest. Slower dragon decks, really. You're not going to want to run this in Dragon Warrior, for example. So that's a more aggressive deck. But in more control-y dragon lists, then I think this card will shine. And it will be alright. It really depends how many strong minions with 3 attack or less are in the meta. Just after the expansion comes out, right? We see that roll out. If there's a lot of key minions with 3 or less attack in the meta, then I think Bookworm will do well. But another thing is it's on turn 6. Usually minions with 3 or less attack, they're gonna be played early on. But I think if this minion was 4 or less attack, it would be very, very good. Insane, actually. Just holding on to this in like a control mirror and being able to remove a Ysera would be so huge. But another reason I think this is good for priests is because of Shrinkmeister. Yeah, that card doesn't cycle it, I don't think. So you can Shrinkmeister and then use Bookworm, and again remove a Ysera, stuff like that. So I think this one's kind of interesting. And again, it could be good, but it's tough to say. We really do have to see the rest of the cards in the expansion. Like I said with almost every single other card, it's really tough to make accurate predictions without seeing all of that. But I think this one will be played, and like all the other ones, I think that they all are playable. None of them are terrible. Yeah, so that's my opinion, guys. Thanks for watching. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe. Hit me up on Twitter and Twitch if you haven't already. Have a good one. Peace out.